Welcome to The Truth Behind the Haunting, a podcast that dives into haunted locations from around the world, as well as bringing you a wide range of paranormal reports, some of which you may be aware of and others that are not so mainstream. In this episode, we bring you 5 cases which include pulling back the veil on a forgotten watering hole with a reputation that refuses to die, and one of Ireland's most chilling legends. In a small town called Brazil, Indiana, there's a building with boarded up windows, cracked brickwork, and a silence that speaks volumes. Locals walk past it quickly, some crossing the street entirely. They call it the Stark Saloon. And while the bar's been closed for decades, some say the spirits inside, well, they're still very active. Built in the late 1800s, Stark Saloon was more than just a bar. It was the heartbeat of Clay County's mining scene, a place where coal-streaked workers came to drink, gamble, fight, and sometimes die. 2 known murders happened inside its walls. One, the result of a bar fight turned bloody when a patron was stabbed with a broken bottle. Another, a card game gone bad, ending in gunfire just outside the front door. And here's the thing, even now, people still report hearing phantom gunshots. Sometimes they say you can even smell gunpowder or whiskey lingering in the air. But it's what happens inside the saloon that really chills investigators to the bone. One recurring spirit is known as the Phantom Bartender. Shadowy and stoic, this figure appears behind the old bar, even though the counter itself is long gone. Paranormal teams have caught footage of him going through the motions, pouring drinks, wiping down a bar that isn't there. They've picked up EVPs too, a gravelly voice muttering things like, "What'll it be?" or "Bar's closed." One team even reported the unmistakable scent of cigars suddenly flooding the room. Now, upstairs is where the story gets darker. Back in the day, the upper level held small rooms. Some say it doubled as a brothel, and the ghost of a woman in a red dress is often seen pacing in front of the second-story windows, her gaze locked on the street below. Who was she? Maybe a woman who met a violent end at the hands of a jealous lover. Or perhaps someone trapped in a life she couldn't escape. Whatever the case, footsteps are often heard on the staircase when no one's inside, and people report a deep, choking sadness when they reach the top. Investigators have experienced cold spots, equipment failures, and personal touches. Literally, guests have reported feeling hands on their shoulders or fingers brushing their neck. One EVP recording caught a male voice saying, "Get out before it starts again." Cryptic, ominous, and very real. Today the Stark Saloon stands in silence, but it isn't empty. Paranormal teams who've gained access describe it as one of the most active haunts in Indiana, with energy that shifts as soon as you step inside. Locals say the place is a magnet, a conduit for old pain, sudden death, and restless souls. So next time you're in Brazil, Indiana, keep an eye on that crumbling brick building. If you see someone staring at you from the second-floor window, just know the saloon may be closed, but the spirits are always on tap. The Million Dollar Courthouse, officially known as the Marion County Courthouse, has towered over Jefferson since 1888. Built at a jaw-dropping cost for its time, it quickly earned its nickname and a reputation that has only grown darker with age. Inside these stately red brick walls, generations faced their fates, guilty, innocent, and everything in between. And it seems that not everyone who entered ever truly left. One of the most talked about hauntings inside the courthouse comes from the old jail cells. Though the jail has long since been relocated, some visitors still hear the chilling echoes of the past. Chains rattling, iron doors slamming, and sometimes, just sometimes, shadowy figures pacing behind bars that haven't existed for decades. And then there's the judge, Several witnesses over the years have reported seeing a stern man in judicial robes wandering the upper floors or sitting silently in the courtroom. His presence is described as heavy, almost suffocating, as if the weight of 100 trials still clings to his spirit. No one knows exactly who he is. Maybe a former judge who died while in office, or maybe justice itself refusing to be forgotten. But the hauntings don't end there. The lights flicker without warning. Shadows stretch and move when no one's there. Even the grand staircase, polished and gleaming, has a reputation for ghostly encounters. One story tells of a janitor working late one evening. He heard a gavel strike, voices murmuring as if a trial was in full session upstairs. But when he climbed the stairs to check, the courtroom was empty. Only the faint smell of cigar smoke lingered. A courtroom full of ghosts, dismissed for the night. Today, the Million Dollar Courthouse still stands proudly, a living piece of Jefferson's history and its mystery. Visitors pass through its halls daily, unaware that they may be walking alongside the unseen. And when the sun dips behind the trees and the shadows lengthen across the marble floors, the courthouse comes alive in a very different way. So the next time you find yourself near Jefferson, Texas, take a walk past the courthouse, listen carefully. You just might hear the whisper of unfinished business and the echoes of justice, never truly at rest. Next we venture into one of Ireland's most chilling legends, the dark heart of Montpelier Hill. Welcome to the Hellfire Caves of Dublin. On the outskirts of Dublin, nestled in the Wicklow Mountains, stands Montpelier Hill. On top of that hill lies the crumbling ruins of a hunting lodge built in the early 18th century by a man named William Connolly. But it didn't take long before the lodge earned a new name, the Hellfire Club, and according to legend, it became a playground for devil worship, occult rituals, and unspeakable horrors. The story goes that when workers were building the original structure, they used stones taken from ancient tombs, disturbing burial sites that had lain undisturbed for centuries. Locals say that from that moment on, the land was cursed. And when Connolly died, the lodge changed hands and changed purpose. By the mid-1700s, the lodge was home to the Irish Hellfire Club, an exclusive society of wealthy young men known for their debauchery, drinking, and dark rituals. They were said to summon demons, sacrifice animals, and maybe even people. One of the most chilling tales tells of a mysterious black cat, larger than any ordinary feline, with eyes that glowed like embers. Some say it was a demon, others a shapeshifter, but all agreed it was a harbinger of doom. Visitors to the ruins today often report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. The air grows cold. Footsteps echo on the stone floors where no living being walks. And then there are the whispers, soft, urgent, and utterly unexplainable. Some paranormal investigators claim the site is a gateway, a thin place where the veil between worlds is almost non-existent. EVP recordings have captured screams, laughter, and guttural growls too deep to belong to any human throat. And it isn't just sound. Shadowy figures have been seen darting between the broken walls. Some visitors report seeing the ghostly form of a man in black, possibly a former member of the Hellfire Club, watching them with hollow eyes before vanishing into the stone. But perhaps the most terrifying story comes from those who experience a sudden, overwhelming urge to flee, as if something unseen has locked onto them, a predator waiting in the dark. Today, the ruins of the Hellfire Club are a popular hiking destination, but many advise against staying there after dark, because once the sun sets over Montpelier Hill, the line between the living and the dead blurs, and the Hellfire Club reawakens. Nestled in the remote forests north of Prague, Houska Castle stands like a silent guardian. But unlike other medieval fortresses, it wasn't built to defend a kingdom or protect royalty. In fact, Houska Castle has no strategic purpose, no water source, no fortifications against armies. Its windows are fake, mere decorations. And its ancient chapel, it was built directly over a massive, gaping pit. Locals said the pit was a gateway to hell. According to centuries-old stories, creatures, half human, half beast, would crawl out of the abyss. Terrified villagers spoke of winged monsters flying over the countryside, snatching livestock. And worse. When the castle was constructed in the 13th century, it wasn't to house nobility. It was to seal the hole. Stone and mortar were poured into the pit, and a chapel was placed on top of it, an eternal attempt to trap whatever lurked beneath. But the evil never seemed to fully go away. Throughout its history, Houska Castle has been tied to dark legends. Nazi occultists allegedly occupied the castle during World War II, drawn by the same legends of the portal, hoping to tap into its power. Some say their twisted experiments left an even darker stain on the land. Visitors today report strange phenomena, chilling cold spots in rooms sealed for centuries, disembodied voices whispering in forgotten hallways, and shadowy figures glimpsed just out of the corner of the eye, creatures that do not move like men. Some claim to hear the flapping of giant wings echoing through the courtyard at night. Others have been overcome by an intense, irrational terror, as if something unseen is watching from the depths below. And then there's the legend of the prisoner. When the pit was first discovered, authorities offered condemned men a deal. They would be pardoned if they agreed to be lowered into the hole to report what they saw. The first volunteer was lowered by rope. Within seconds he began screaming, blood-curdling, agonizing screams. When they pulled him back up, his hair had turned white, his face was twisted in terror, and he died days later, raving mad. Today, Houska Castle stands silent. Tours are offered, but only during the daylight hours. No one, it seems, is eager to test what might still be stirring when night falls. Whether you believe the portal to hell lies beneath its ancient stones or not, one thing is certain. Houska Castle was built to keep something trapped, and after centuries we can only wonder if, someday, it might break free. Raynham Hall is a stately, magnificent mansion that has been home to the Townsend family since the 17th century. But behind its opulent facade lies a legend so chilling, it's become one of the most famous ghost stories of all time. The tale of the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. The Brown Lady's story begins with Dorothy Walpole, sister of Britain's first Prime Minister, Robert Walpole. Dorothy was married to Charles Townshend, a powerful but notoriously controlling man. Rumours swirled that Dorothy had once loved another man before her marriage, a love affair Charles could neither forget nor forgive. Some say that when he discovered her secret, he locked her away inside Raynham Hall, isolated, forgotten, until her death under mysterious circumstances in 1726. But if death ended Dorothy's suffering, it didn't end her story. The Brown Lady first made her presence known in the 19th century. Visitors reported seeing the ghostly figure of a woman dressed in an old-fashioned brown satin gown, her face partially obscured by a soft glow, or sometimes horribly deformed with empty, hollow eye sockets. She drifted through Raynham's darkened halls, gliding silently as if forever seeking something or someone lost to her. In 1835, a man named Colonel Loftus was staying at Raynham over the Christmas holidays. Late one night, walking to his room by candlelight, he encountered her, floating silently down the corridor. He described her face as shriveled and unnatural, and he wasn't alone. Several other guests reported seeing the Brown Lady that very same night. But the most famous encounter happened nearly a century later, in 1936, when photographers for Country Life magazine were taking pictures of the grand staircase. As they developed the photos, something emerged. A misty figure descending the stairs, shaped unmistakably like a woman in a flowing gown. It became one of the most iconic paranormal photographs in history. Proof, some say, that the Brown Lady is very real. Today, Raynham Hall is still a private residence, and sightings of the Brown Lady have become rare. But those who visit often speak of an unsettling energy lingering in the air, as if the walls themselves remember the sorrow trapped within them. Was Dorothy Walpole condemned to haunt the home that became her prison? Is the Brown Lady a warning, a reminder of the consequences of betrayal, jealousy, and cruelty? One thing is certain, at Raynham Hall time has not erased the past. It walks there still, gowned in brown, her sorrow woven into the very air itself. Thanks for joining us on the Truth Behind the Haunting podcast. If you enjoyed our journey into the supernatural, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow ghost seekers. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and stay aware of what moves in the shadows.